So I'm pleased to welcome Vermont's Attorney General Bill Sorrell. A native Vermonter, Mr. Sorrell is the longest-serving Attorney General in the history of Vermont. A paddler and friend to water quality, he joined in litigation against polluters contributing to Vermont's acid rain issues and helped procure the largest settlement of an environmental pollution case in U.S. history. Mr. Sorrell.
Congressman Welch mentioned Bo Biden. I served with Bo. His memorial service is going on right now. The president's probably eulogizing him. I wondered whether I should be in Delaware, but I'd committed to being here today, and in truth, I have wonderful respect for Bo's service, and what a great loss. He died way too young, but I wanted to be here today. Didn't know it was going to be this gorgeous a day, but to celebrate this amazing accomplishment. And when you think of two terms, wild and scenic, you think what great adjectives for a river. And even better when it's two rivers, and best when it's two Vermont rivers. And so such cause for celebration, and I want to join those who recognize and thank the individuals and organizations that had the vision and then the energy and the commitment over 11 years to get us where we are today. So thank you and congratulations. When I was asked if I wanted to say a few words, I said I wanted to talk about something else just briefly and not to sort of cast a pall of any sort over the celebration, but rather use the celebration and the energy from the celebration to appreciate the fact that the Missisquoi and Trout rivers flow into northern Lake Champlain, and we have a problem in northern Lake Champlain. And these wild and scenic and wonderful natural resource rivers contribute to those problems. And I'll say that back in 2011, when we had a new Secretary of Agriculture, a new Secretary of Natural Resources, I asked for a meeting and said, my office, your agency, and your agency all have roles to play on water quality. Particularly, our problems are in northern Lake Champlain, and we're not working very well together, and we got to start working together better. And that started a lot of meetings at my level, at staff level, and obviously as the conditions in the Missisquoi Bay deteriorated more and more, all kinds of folks have gotten religion, if you will. And the governor supported legislation this session with money for cleanup and enhanced efforts, sailed through both chambers of the legislature. And my office, we pledged to do our part, but frankly, we hope that enforcement is the last thing that we need to do, and that we can avoid the need to take enforcement actions for pollution of this rivershed. And so let's celebrate today, thank those and congratulate them who are deserving of that. For those who are going to go paddle, myself included, I can't wait for this. So it's a great day, but let's also take it as an opportunity to redouble our efforts. It's going to be a long haul. It's going to be at least the 11 years leading to today on the designation. It's going to be at least that and more. But if we work together, northern Lake Champlain can be something of which we and our kids' kids are proud. Thank you very much.
I think this one word has come and been spoken multiple times today, and it's called one word only: respect. And I learned that very early on, much before I got involved with the Northern Forest Canoe Trail at Mad River Canoe Company, when I had the privilege of getting to know Donna and John Moody. Donna and John, come on up. And my wife and I are passionate canoeists. We've paddled all over the world. We've taken waters for granted. And what John and Donna shared with me was to rekindle my memory about that these waterways behind us are part of an ancient way of life that has gently survived, but most often we have ignored that kind of history and those people. And they brought a tone to the canoe trail and worked very closely with Walter Alpazinski in when we laid out a plan of a campsite every 12 to 15 miles along the whole 740-mile waterway. Donna said to me and John, probably the campsites that you have scoped out are the same as your elders were there many, many years ago. And that word respect has been so effervescent in the work of the trail. And it really starts way back with the Abnaki, the Penobscot, and from there, Donna and John.
I don't usually need a microphone, but the wind kizzles some today. I am director of Winter Center for Indigenous Traditions, which is a small nonprofit, small, very, very, very nonprofit organization that does a lot of things for people of color in New Hampshire and Vermont. Service organization, basically. Indian etiquette would suggest to me that I should be saying to you today, enjoy this beautiful day in Indakina. Indakina, the homeland of the Abenaki people, the El Nombak. We are very, very connected to place. Our language connects us to place. The Missisquoi River, this is not the original name, the traditional name of this river, but it's the traditional name of our village in northwestern Vermont, Missisquoi. We are very fortunate as Indigenous people to still hold this connection. Place and language, collectively and individually, informs who we are, informs our being. The rivers have been for us not only waterways, but they've been places where our subsistence living has gathered a lot of food. Goes on today. We're fortunate that we've not been removed. Now I know there have been times that some people would have loved the Abenaki people to be removed, but we're still here. We're still connected to place. We're still connected to our language and many of the place names here. The Winooski River further south, right? That's an Abenaki word also. So unlike so many indigenous peoples in the world who have had, through the process of colonization, that connection to place and to language separated, we're very fortunate that we have maintained that identity, this place that identifies us as a people and as individuals. And I want to thank Rob. I was going to mention that it's been since September 30th, 1994, when Mad River Canoe Company, through Rob, provided us with a number of canoes to do a very large repatriation, bringing our ancestors home from Montpelier, Vermont, all the way to Missisquoi by canoe. And that was the beginning of a long relationship. Yeah. And we want to thank you because you've been important to our ancestors. The respect you talk about, that you hold, has been very respectful process, Rob. So thank you for that. And I know John has some things he's prepared to say. Thank you.
So I just met John Little this morning, and really just met him when he was helping to put up the sign over here for Northern Forest Canoe Trail, which you'll notice is still up there. And then watched when he grabbed a branch which was dead, and it broke off, and he threw it in the pucker brush. And then the next thing I know, he's up in the tree. Okay, I don't know how he got up there, because I couldn't get up in that tree if my life depended on it. And stringing up the cord and all, comes down and he goes, I need that branch. And then he goes down into the pucker brush, because this is a farmer, right? He's got a good arm. He winged that friggin' branch into the, down into the water supply. He went down and got the branch and brought it back up, made stakes. We put up the thing. This is a great guy. I mean, But I also said I'm going to report him to OSHA for breaking about 487 federal rules. And he said, no one's paying me for this. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Good to be a volunteer.
Yeah, that's right. So we're here to celebrate the ancient and continuing human legacy of the Alnumbak, or the Wabanakyak, which is where the name Abenaki comes from. The Abenaki people, whose ancient village name, Mazipskuik, or now called Missisquoi, has become the common name for this beautiful river system, has very ancient roots. The original name means, Mazips means stone, or the flint that things are made from. And sprinkled around in the lower section of the Missisquoi watershed and down into St. Albans, there are some mines of this flint. And that's what this place was named for. This river was called Waswatatuk, or the Crooked River, or Bending River. Before it got straightened out by a lot of floods in the 19th century, this river had a lot more switchbacks, a lot calmer sections right through this area. And that's what it was known for since ancient times. So Abenaki roots here in the Patambok, Wahanek, or Lake Champlain Valley are very, very deep. They're thousands and thousands of years old. And since the time of Wawa-Nolwat, or Greylock as he's better known, who got his name on the mountain down in Massachusetts, in the 18th century, early 18th century, the New England forebears of Vermont and America heard the name Missisquoi, my Yankee ancestors included, as an impossibly remote and hidden source for boundary keeping on the northern frontier with the Abenaki Nation. My Abenaki wife and I often joke that whenever I do a talk in a New Hampshire, Vermont town, it turns out that the Abenaki whacked a Moody somewhere in that town, I mean, it's amazing the number of Moodies who would come in, stick their toe over the boundary the Abenakis had drawn over and over and say, like to take your land. And they'd say, okay, let's dance. Anyway, by the early 19th century, the disappearance of the Abenaki, or the St. Francis Indians, as they were commonly known to Yankees, had reached mythic proportions in tandem with the popularization of Francis Parkman's famous early 19th century no man's land myth about Vermont and Western Mass. How many of you have heard of Francis Parkman? How many of you have, Nat Warman, are you still here? How many of you have read Francis Parkman? See? All right, good. Yet the birch bark canoes and dugouts of the Abenaki continued to be seen on the Missisquoi in fleeting glimpses down to recent years, and the people cared for the newcomers, we newcomers I should say, and survived in their ancient homeland in every town and village and watershed in the region. The annual Abenaki way of life and agricultural round became the local annual subsistence life of everyone living here to present day. And I failed to follow an intuition to buy a squash to bring for John. I knew I should have done that. Sacred old Abenaki gift. And the reason squash is often given, not corn, but squash as a gift, is because squash farming is an Abenaki and Eastern Algonquin invention, if you will. Abenaki grandmothers, native grandmothers, brought squash along from the original plants. And now the eastern part of North America is considered the fourth world center for the development of agriculture because of squash.